Well, hello again. Welcome back to my YouTube page. Today we're going to be talking about the JAE-100 Gen 3 M14 rifle chassis. I've been doing M14 videos for a while now, and I've had the opportunity to mess with all kinds of different configurations of the M14 into GI fiberglass stocks, heavy McMillan stocks, lightweight carbon fiber stocks. I've had a chance to install them in the Black Feather and the Sage. And really the last chassis that I was personally interested in was JAE-100. Now this particular chassis has been highly regarded by quite a few shooters, especially people that own them, as one of the most accurate, if not the most accurate M14 stock that you can buy. That's basically a drop-in. They went ahead and sent me one of their latest chassis systems with all the bells and whistles. And so what I'm going to do for you today is we're just going to go through this chassis from front to back and let you know about all the different features that this particular chassis has. And we're also going to do, we're also basically going to take another rifle here and we're going to drop this one into a JAE chassis. And we're going to show you the process and show you exactly how easy it is. You know, I'll give a little spoiler alert. It literally takes seconds to install one of these rifles into one of these chassis. The really nice thing I like about it is this particular chassis does not require any kind of gunsmithing. There's some tweaking and stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. You basically can get any M14 action with any profile barrel and drop it right into this chassis. And they have a really amazing clamping system that clamps onto the receiver legs and pulls down. I'll show you that later. Okay. Now, I've had a few months to play around with this stock, not as much time as I wish I could have, but the kind of performance that I've personally been seeing out of this rifle has been, for me, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. This particular action is a LRB M25 with a John Wolf 5R barrel, topped off with a Leupold Mark IV ERT. And I'm also sporting a shooting sight enhanced battle rifle trigger, or EBR profile trigger. So it's just been a great, this is absolutely my favorite shooting setup that I've had a chance to play with and had a chance to own. Okay. And I got to tell you, the accuracy that I've seen out of this thing. Now this rifle has already been a great shooter. I've got a couple of targets and I'll show you some before and after targets, but this rifle's already been a great shooter before I dropped into the chassis. And after a few range trips, even trying it with different types of ammo, I got some really surprising results. So I'll go ahead and go through some of the features that we'll just start from front to back, and I'll tell you all about it. And so when you open this thing up, this is what you will see. So as you open the box, you'll have your set of instructions, your JAE chassis wrapped up nice and neat. A little paper here that talks about your tensioner. We'll talk about that later. All JAE chassis, or stocks, whatever you want to call them, they all come with a handguard. So JAE ships a new handguard made by them with every chassis that you buy. So the handguard is made and painted with the same color that their chassis is, so everything matches. They also offer the option to slot the handguard. So if you want that option, I want to say it's not too expensive of an upgrade, but you can have the option to have these slotted. Also comes with some nice little stickers here. And we'll see what's in this bag. So what you're going to have here is a 5/32 T-handle. You got some grip pad spacers here for your for the pistol grip. And in fact, let me go ahead and take the plastic off this. And again, there's your T-handle. Comes with apparently it has some hardware in case you have a Voltor top cluster rail. And it also has some set screw plugs if you remove some parts. It has a couple of Allen wrenches for different portions of installing the chassis if you need. Now, it used to be these chassis were sold in a much more stripped down configuration. Again, this being the third generation, they've incorporated everything that they've learned from the past two generations. Now, this is basically the full meal deal setup. This has almost all the options. So the chassis basically comes, the only two options that you have are the one without the side accessory rails and the ones with the side accessory rails. So this is the full package with the side accessory rails. Now, I don't have the actual attachments. They sell those, I want to say they're like $30 or $40 a piece. But you can buy small sections to attach to these rails for other accessories that are going on the side of the forearm. Now, coming standard, they all come with the adjustable Picatinny rail section here on the front, and also with the Harris bipod sling swivel. Okay. So as you can see, you can move this Picatinny section to any portion underneath the forearm that you desire. You just got to remove these screws and move it to any different location that suits your needs. The same thing goes with the Harris bipod swivel, or with the sling swivel. So looking in from the top, as you see here, this whole section up from the heel of the receiver to the front of to the gas system, this is all one solid piece of aluminum. I believe this aluminum skeleton it continues all the way into the stock, but I can't be 100% sure. I'd have to go back and do some more research. So this whole entire section right here is just solid aluminum. This is the most solid chassis that I think I've ever seen. Continuing on with the accessories, what you have at various points along the chassis are all these quick disconnect mounts for your sling. Okay, and they're on both sides. So you've got 4 per side. Well, basically, if you've got a quick disconnect sling, you can go ahead and put your sling attachments on anywhere you want. And you're all set. So focusing in on the front end here, this is probably the most critical feature. This is one of 2 of the most critical features of this stock that make it a very, very accurate stock. So when you're talking about accuracy for M14s or M1As, there's this thing called draw pressure, and if you want to know what draw pressure is, go look at some of my inspection videos and I talk about it. So basically what it is, I can talk about it more there, but just in a brief overview. Okay, so when we're talking about draw pressure, what that means is like this is the front band. This is one that used to be unitized via screw and glue, but I took it apart and it's just a junk part that I've got, but I can use it for illustration. So this piece, you have the lip of the front band, and that lip goes right here in that slot. So when you put the action in, you hook the front band in there. Now what you want is this pulling up on the stock, and you want this portion pulling down on the barrel. Okay, so that's called draw pressure. So it's the force, it's basically pulling on this front band. So that is completely adjustable. You can see right here, you've got the screw that adjusts your draw pressure, and you've got the set screw that locks it down. And so you can tune this to your rifle and to your load. So that's one of the highlights of this chassis that makes it very unique and that helps it be very, very accurate. So it's up to you. There's good starting points, but it's up to you to figure out where the sweet spot is for your rifle and for your load. So moving back, we've got these, get your magazine well, everything. Like I said, these are basically two halves of a chassis, and they're bolted together. And so you've got a wide magazine well, and these little set screws right here are actually set screws that if your trigger group is fitting too loose, right? If it's sitting around here and it's flopping all around, right? If it's too loose when it's locked into the chassis, you can actually back these set screws out and tighten this up so it doesn't shake around while you have it installed. So this is it basically has adjustments for your trigger group lockup. The trigger group lockup is not critical to the performance of the chassis. However, I like to adjust it just so that it's not flopping around. And so you can also adjust the tilt and the angle. So if you're having some trigger reset problems or something, you can also adjust the angle too as well. You definitely don't want this to be too tight, so I just try to find a happy medium with it. I try to make sure it's not canted too far forward. In fact, if you cant it too far forward with these screws, then what you could do is you can have trouble inserting your magazine because the latch will be a little too far. It'll just be, it closes up the tolerance. But if you cant it back a little bit, it moves the latch down and it's easier to lock in your magazines. So going back to the top of the chassis, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but in here you've got the cutouts for the receiver. You've also got a cutout for the connector pin. So if you have a flush mount connector pin, it will back out. So you either have to fill it or get a standard GI connector pin that will fit in that slot. So I know some of the Chinese M14s up north, they don't have, they have a flush fit connector pin, and so you would need a GI one that sticks out farther, again, or fill in that. So the one thing that's really unique about the JAE chassis is it's already cleared for a rear lug receiver. So if you have a rear lug receiver that you've got bedded in a Macmillan stock or something like that, or a big red birch stock, that limits your options as far as what kind of modern chassis that you can use. But with the JAE chassis, it's already cleared. So your receiver will fit in. Now, it's not cleared to fit a double lug receiver. If you're a double lug receiver, you're out of luck. This will only accommodate standard and rear lug receivers. Now, another note about the rear lug, the rear lug clearance, it's only there for clearance so that your receiver will fit. It adds no benefit whatsoever. The rear lug adds no benefit whatsoever with this chassis. A rear lug is essentially the same as a standard receiver for the JAE chassis, which is fine because it's just not dependent on that rear lug anchor point. Okay, what it is dependent on are the lug slides. So these lug slides, I'll take them out here in a second. These hook onto the receiver legs. I'll show you how to do that. And they basically they're the ones that lock the receiver down, and I'll show you how. So under here you've got some screws on the trigger guard. So you take your supplied T-handle, and it's a really nice one. Bonus is a really good brand. I use those at work all the time. So you're basically going to just take the screw all the way out. Okay, so what you're left with, these are the locking lugs for the receiver. Okay, now these particular ones are aluminum. Right, so what I've got here are these are the standard aluminum receiver lug slides, and these are one of the few upgradable parts that you can get for your JAE chassis. These are titanium receiver lug slides. Now, I don't know what the actual benefit is of them. It's about a $350 upgrade. Some people just like the idea of having titanium versus aluminum. This is what I've been using the whole time, are these titanium ones, and they've been working great. I can't say that the aluminum ones wouldn't have worked just as good. I can't go wrong with either of them, but this is standard. This is an upgrade. Now, one note is if you do use the titanium lugs, these ones that have the grayish color, you want to make sure you use some anti-seize on the threads. Okay, that was a special note by Lisa at JAE, and it probably wouldn't hurt to use a little bit of anti-seize thread lubricant on the standard ones either. What I've got here is just this is a standard Beulah receiver, and I just want to demonstrate to you exactly what is happening when you drop your receiver into a JAE chassis. So what happens is these lugs, as you put it in, you loosen the screw and these lugs slide out of the top of the chassis, and you hook them onto your receiver legs. And then when you slide your receiver down into the stock, these pull. As you tighten this screw, it pulls the receiver and locks it into the chassis. Okay, so it's dependent on these lugs and this screw to lock the receiver. You're not dependent on trigger group clamping pressure or a rear lug with a screw. Okay, that's what really makes this receiver, that's what really makes this chassis unique from other chassis. Okay, and because of that, because it's not dependent on trigger group clamping pressure, the heel can be completely free floated. So if you do install your action into the chassis and you see a gap of daylight between the heel and the chassis, that's actually normal. It was designed to be that way, so don't be alarmed. Alright, so moving back to the next step is you've got the palm rest here, or the grip really, and this is a soft foam rubber type of material. And then you've also got your palm rest, okay? And it does, I've had some good shooting sessions, and this is probably the most comfortable chassis I think I've ever used. And the hand really does, it really works well with the hand. So again, you've got the palm rest. Now, if for some reason you got bigger hands, or it just makes you feel funny and you want to get rid of the palm rest, you can. You just got to get your tool here and take off these couple of screws. So if you don't like it, you can basically go with a palm, a restless palm type of a grip, if that's what really suits your needs. So this is where the set screws come into place. If you want to, if you take this off and you've got these exposed holes right here and you don't want them exposed, you can go ahead and plug them up. Now again, they've supplied you with the plugs and with the appropriate hex head wrench to go ahead and to plug up those holes. So you could probably just use some Loctite just to keep them in, or you can just drive them in all the way if you like. These would go all the way in, but what I would do is just put some blue Loctite on them and just screw them in until they're just about flush, and there you go. So now your holes are not exposed. And again, so if you feel like your grip spacer is in the wrong area, you've got your grip spacer. I'm sorry, if you feel like your palm swell stop is in the wrong space, you can go ahead and throw on a spacer, and you can move it down if you got bigger hands, but you still want the palm spacer. So there you go. Now you can, and I suppose if you really wanted this to hang down more, you could probably get some more spacers from the company, or even make your own gaskets if you feel like you need to. So again, this is configurable for different size hands. Alright, so now it's time to highlight another really awesome feature of this particular chassis, which is the cheek rest, the thumb wheel, the locking screw, and just how easy it is to set this up to use iron sights or a scope. Okay, so this cheek rest is actually adjustable, and as you can see here, it's got my name on it and the Eagle Globe and Anchor. That's I want to say it's about a $200 engraving service. They'll engrave anything on here that you send them a picture of, or a JPEG file or something like that. So if you know, a lot of people have their name or department or a military unit inscribed on their cheek rest, which they did for me as well. So this particular cheek rest, it's actually quick detachable. You just flip the lever and the cheek rest comes right off, which is great. It used to be that this cheek rest used to have to be secured with screws. It can be a little tricky adjusting it sometimes. But once you know how it works, and once you figure out how to get it adjusted, it works great, and it'll save you a lot of headache later. Okay, so right here you see this lock and unlock wheel. Okay, and to adjust your cheek rest, what you want to do is make sure it's in the unlock position. Okay, now screw it, unlock it as far as it will go. So basically right there, it'll freewheel for a while, and then it'll eventually hit a stopping point. You'll know it's completely unlocked, and then from that point you can just turn this thumb wheel very freely, and you can see my cheek rest is moving up or moving down. Now the key is making sure this is fully unlocked. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll take this off. It's great, I can just unclamp that, and you can see this is the portion underneath the chassis that's moving. So I can sit here and just tighten it. So as I rotate it that way, you can see it's going down. So if you fully recess this, then this is what you want with the cheek piece removed, and with this fully recessed, and that's all the way in. This is what you would use for if you're shooting iron sights. If you got no scope, this is what you'd want. Now in general, this cheek piece won't really fit with that all the way down in the down position. So once you have it in the position you like, go ahead and lock this all the way. Okay, and you shouldn't be able to, you'll see this freewheel kind of, as I try to raise it, looks like it'll lock a little bit more. I can't, you'll see this will start locking up. Now what you do not want to do is you don't want to try to adjust this without unlocking it. Okay, it'll eventually, the things will seize up in there. Okay, so one of the things you want to do is take the pressure off. So right now, taking the pressure off. Now I'm going to loosen this, move this up a little bit, loosen this up a little bit more until it freewheels. Now it's completely unlocked, and now I can move this up, and I can put my cheek rest on. Okay, lock it down, and now I can move this to any height that I want. Okay, for the scope that I'm using and for the certain height. Now this has a really a broad range of cheek height. So let me go ahead and go as high as I can possibly go. Before I do that, notice the gap here, okay, and then I'll let you know. We'll show you the gap when it's fully risen. All right, so this is about as high as I can get it. If I back this off just a little bit more, this whole thing will actually come off, okay, at that point in time. So even here, you see it's really, really loose, but once you tighten down your locking ring, it doesn't really tighten it down very much. So you definitely don't want to go that high. So we'll go ahead and bring this down a bit. So as you can see, I've brought it down a little bit more. At about this height right here, this is when this stops really rattling. It still rattles around a little bit because it's really, really high out, but you do have quite a bit of rotation. I seriously doubt you're going to need to bring your cheek rest this high. This would be an extreme case. So again, this is more or less where you're really going to be with this cheek rest here. This is about the height that I use to use a Loophole Mark IV ERT with a 30mm tube on medium height rings. So I have quite a bit of wiggle room, and at this point, when it's seated down like that, it really doesn't rattle at all. Okay, it's nice. It's a nice solid cheek rest. And again, you got this locked. So that's one of the biggest, trickiest thing about this is just making sure that that you operate the locking mechanism properly. Okay, so don't just back it off a little bit and then think it's locked. Back it off, break some tension off here. Back it off some more until it really, really stops, and then you'll be able to move this up and down freely. So now moving on towards the back here, one of the last features that we have is the Picatinny rail for a like an AccuShot monopod or something like that, which I've used in other chassis systems before. I haven't used it on this one, but also what you'll notice is you have the hook here that a lot of people like to use when they're shooting bench rest or prone or something like that off a bipod or sandbags. So you've got the butt hook, I guess is what they really call it. So as you're shooting, you can get in here with your palm and fine tune how you're shooting. So works pretty good. So the last feature that we really have to talk about on this chassis is the butt pad. You'll notice here it's this really, really soft foam rubber. It's really, really thick. You can take this off if you like, but it makes the shooting an M14 very, very comfortable. Between the weight of the chassis and the cushion of this butt pad, I would say shooting an M14 with full size, 175 grain, gold medal match, this thing shoots like an AR. It really, really, really shoots like a dream. And actually, if you're using something lighter with like 125 TNTs or something like that, the reduced recoil is substantial. Alright, that about does it for the JAE-100 Gen 3 introduction and overview video. Come back soon and I will have a full installation video. Thanks for watching.